All right, number 13, let's solve the equation. We have 3 over 7x minus 2 equals 1 plus 3x. And this is very similar to question number 12. We are solving the equation, so we want to get a positive x all by itself on one side of the equals sign and everything else on the other. And we can do that a couple different ways, but we're used to solving for x on the left-hand side, so that's what I'm going to do here with number 13. So I'm going to move everything that does not have an x to the right-hand side, move any term with an x to the left-hand side, and to do that, I'll start by adding 2 to both sides. That way that 2 cancels here on the left, and when we add 2 to both sides, we end up with 3 over 7x equals, well, 1 plus 2 is 3, and then plus 3x, which was already there. All right, let's go ahead and subtract 3x from both sides, so it goes away over here, and now we end up with 3 over 7x minus 3x equals positive 3, and now we can see we've got our x's on one side and everything else on the other. But here, 3 over 7x minus 3x, these are like terms, so we can combine these. So off to the side here, I'm going to do 3 over 7 minus 3. All right, but we can turn 3 into a fraction, can't we? We can just say 3 over 1, and now we can clearly see, all right, we've got one fraction, subtract or minus another fraction. We know when we add and subtract fractions, we need a common denominator. And in this case, if we're looking at our two denominators, we have a 7, we have a 1. We know that the common denominator here is going to be 7. So I don't have to touch this fraction, but I do have to manipulate this fraction so that we can turn this denominator that's a 1 into a 7. And to do that, we're going to simply multiply by 7, because 1 times 7 is 7, but whatever we multiply the bottom by, we have to multiply the top by that same number. And so what we end up with is 3 over 7, which we didn't change, didn't have to touch that, minus now 21 over 7. And we know once we have a common denominator, that common denominator just moves over, and we can perform the indicated operation with our numerator. So 3 minus 21, well, that gives us a negative 18. And so here on the left, 3 over 7x minus 3x gives us now negative 18 over 7x equals 3. And because we want to get x all by itself, we have to get rid of the coefficient here, this negative 18 over 7. So we can do that really in one of two ways. We can either divide by negative 18 over 7, or we can multiply both sides by the reciprocal. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of negative 18 over 7 is negative 7 over 18. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. And again, all I'm doing is I'm keeping the sign. So it was originally negative 18 over 7. I'm keeping the negative, and I'm just flipping the numerator and denominator. Why? Because I want this negative 7 to cancel with that 7, this 18 to cancel with that 18. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive, and so on the left-hand side, what we end up with is just a positive x equals, and here on the right, we end up with, well, we can, again, write this as 3 over 1. So 3 times negative 7 is negative 21 over 1 times 18 is 18. If you can reduce, you have to reduce, and in this case, I think we can. We can go ahead and reduce each by a factor of 3. So upstairs we have, negative 7 over 6. All right, and so there's our final answer for number 13, negative 7 over 6.